three is predominant in just about anything, just about any religion or any philosophy. So it's something that it's been talked about and what they really mean. But so it's tri as in three, kaya as the body. Okay, that's the Pali canon for Pali for body. So Trikaya means the three bodies. Okay, so what we're about to see here, I will not go ahead and make everybody memorize the names, predominantly because I can't memorize them either. In English, in Chinese it's much easier, but in English it's really difficult. So it's the same roots, but it's not as easy. So I will not make everybody memorize it, and I'll probably just say it one time and probably just leave it at that. But it's the idea of what they really portray and what they really mean that's more important. So the Trikaya, actually, the three are Dhammakaya. This is the one that we hear most about. Dhammakaya is the body of enlightenment and truth. And then there's a Sambhogakaya, which is the body of various transformations. And we're going to talk about that. And also the Nirmanakaya, which is the body of reward. Now, these are loosely translated. And if you, once again, go online to search for yourself and read more about this, to expand your knowledge and ever-increasing wisdom, then you will see there are different explanations for all of this. However, the main things stands true. The Dhammakaya is the concept and the principle. That's the enlightenment and the truth that is encompassing everything. All the things that we see and all the principles that we adhere to, or all the principles that we have yet to understand. Everything, anything there is, or there is not. That's the Dhammakaya. That's the Dharma in everything, right? And then you have the last one, which is Nirmanakaya, which is the body of reward. Now, usually what that is it represents the Buddha, the Shakyamuni Buddha that we know about, this particular person, the physical being of this particular person that we refer to as the Buddha, the one that we know, our teacher, the one that we are now following the path of, the teaching of. That is the person, the physical being, the prince, Shakyamuni, the prince, the father, the teacher, the enlightened being, the Buddha. That's the person, the body of reward. And what is it called, the reward? Well, it's actually retribution, okay? It's the body of retribution or reward, meaning the form of the body that we come to know about as the Buddha. That's the reward for all the things that the Buddha had done in the past life. Same thing. The body that you see in you, in everybody else, that's their body of reward. They have done, whether it's the merit or whether they have done something that is not so good, that's the reward that they got, okay? Put everything together, it's the retribution or the reward. So it's the body of reincarnated reward, okay? So that's the last one. So you have the Dharma, which is formless, and you have the body that is very concrete. And what's in the middle are the various transformations. And that is to say that in order for the Dharma to be understood and to be seen and to be felt, you need to have one central symbol, one central representation of what Dharma is. And then you're going to have various transformations throughout the world, throughout all sentient beings, to carry out the teachings of the Dharma. And that is actually transformation or manifestation of the Dharma itself. So that's the three different bodies that there is about the Buddha. So once again, there's the Dhammakaya, which is the truth and the principle. And then there's the Sambhogakaya, which is the body of various transformation and manifestation. And then there's a Nirmanakaya, which is the body of reward, the three bodies. Now, yesterday, Master made it a lot simpler by saying that, oh, it's really just, and it's really written, spoken in as little words as possible. And I think this is the one thing that I really, really enjoy and really find it fit the way that I can understand, is that the words and explanations are easy and simple for me to understand and for me to get the idea very quickly. So there isn't a lot of definition. There isn't really a lot of, let me tell you what this is, but rather it's only to tell you how it fits in all the pictures. Because sometimes to really understand something isn't about to define it in concrete words. The more you define it, the more restricted it becomes. So rather than defining it, Master connects it with the theme that she wants to talk about and put all these things in its places. Therefore, it fits into the big picture. So Master says the three bodies are the Dhammakaya, which is the wisdom and the truth. So that's not much different from the others. The Nimanakaya is the form and appearance of wisdom. So whatever the wisdom and the truth, you have to have a form and appearance of it. Otherwise, we won't see it. We can't feel it. If we don't have it, or if we cannot explore and discover the wisdom within, then we don't know how to follow. Essentially, a form and appearance of a role model that we know what to do and what to follow. And what connects the two is the supernatural powers. Now, this is the one that is the most deviated from the other explanations. And I found it to be very, very understanding, very, very encompassing of what the Sambhogakaya is about. And Master talks about it's namely the supernatural powers. And we're going to go on about what that is. So the three bodies, really, I break it down. And at this time, if you still remember the three names are the Dhammakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and then there's a Nimanakaya, right? So you don't have to memorize them. But essentially, there is this thing, the Dharma. It's everywhere. It's all encompassing. Everywhere you see the temperature, the atoms, the molecules, and the principles, filial piety, all these things, all around us, it all consists of the Dharma. It's everywhere. It's the universal truth. It's the law and everything, and the law that governs all the things that's happening. That's called the Dharma. So it's everywhere. And from there, we are most understanding of it. We understand the Dharma not by feeling it, we just accept it. However, somebody, something, someone taught us about how all these fit into our picture. So it's just like, yes, we accept that there is light. We accept that there is sunrise and sunset. However, someone explained to us how the sunrise and sunset came to be, why that is important to us, and make use of that. You need someone, an instructor, a teacher, a guide who is able to explain the relevance of this Dharma to us. And that is the representation of form to represent Dharma. Therefore, even though Dharma is everywhere, we in our limited minds and capabilities cannot see everything. So we need to associate all of this with one form and one appearance before we can truly understand and grasp the idea that it's everywhere. So before we can do that, we must grab onto something that we can hold on to, and that's the form. And in this case, it's called the Nimanakaya, which is the body of the Buddha, or the Shakyamuni Buddha himself. He is the embodiment that really allow us to see through him what's the bigger picture. Because of his preaching, allow us to see more than what we used to think we know. We used to accept things as is, but he made sense of it. He make us understand more of it, and he allow us and guide us to see deeper than what we just saw, then to guide us to think deeper about what we can do. So through this form, we are about to see more of the Dharma, not just feel it, but understand it, and to guide us to try to feel it more than just what it is. However, between the two extremes, there are these called the transformation or the manifestations. And these are all these manifestations that allow us to see more. And what are these? These are essentially the manifestation of the Dharma itself. It's no longer just one person, the Buddha. It's no longer just what the Buddha says, but it's actually expanded out to all the different capacities. For example, through Buddha, we now began to understand Dharma. However, it's through the manifestation of all the things that's happening in the world, through all the examples, all the of all the of the parables that were used by the Buddha that we began to understand more of what Dharma is. However, the stories don't stop there. In the Lotus Sutra, there are many, many parables, right? There's a parable of the burning house. There's a parable of the medicinal herbs. There's a parable of the lost son. There are all these parables, but are they the only parables that we can use to see through to understand Dharma? No, there's a lot more. For example, Master talked about the Sierra Leone. She talked about the difficulty, the sufferings that the people there have been encountering. She talked about how we have to use air transportation today, right? Talk about the different ways to fly our relief goods there. That's a manifestation of the Dharma. And so essentially, Buddha is where we focus all of our understanding to learn Dharma, while all these manifestations allow us closer to us to really understand more. Another example, I remember 2 years ago, and I'm sure some of you have been there too. 2 years ago, with the major earthquake that struck Nepal, I had a chance to be there for about half a year, for 6 months. I was there in Nepal for 6 months, and there were, because Nepal was the birthplace of Buddha, and there were a lot of different sects of Buddhism there, and mostly were the Tibetan Buddhists. And for them, we have a lot of good interactions as well. And as Master Cheng Yen's is world famous, therefore they all know about our master. Now, one of the monk, his name was Maitreya. Yes, very similar to the Bodhisattva Maitreya that we are talking about right now in this chapter. But Maitreya, this monk, was a very devout follower, and he also understood what our master's teaching was. And he had always said that while he was doing relief work of compassion, he would set the goal and the role model as our master to follow the path. Now, there are many times where I invite him to come to Taiwan to see Master, and of course it will be well accepted, except that he was of course very busy with the relief work, always going into the mountains, arranging, and then I kid you not, arranging helicopter rides with the army, with the government, to make sure that there are airdrops to all the different temples that's in the mountains. Because usually in the villages, the temples are where people go to, not just for the practitioners, but also where people go to when they are in need of help, and therefore in states of emergency like the major earthquake. People in the mountains where their transportation is cut off, they would actually go to these places, monasteries and temples, to find solace, to find shelter. So they would do airdrops. And so one day I was explaining, what Master taught, etc., and sharing with him. And he said, I said, well, it's unfortunate, or it's not so unfortunate, but it's a pity that he hasn't met Master yet. And he said, yes, but I have met her. And I said, well, how? You have never been to Taiwan, and Master has never been outside of the country. And so he said, but it is through you. So he was talking to me. It was through you that I see your teacher. And for me, that was the highest praise that I have ever gotten from anyone. And that was, it is through us, the disciple, that anyone else can see the teacher. And I wanted to bring that out is, that's how this follows. It is through the manifestation all over all these appearances. Through this manifestation, we can see the form, which is the Buddha. And through the Buddha, we can see the Dharma. And if we are really, really detailed and really, really put our mind to it, and through all these manifestations, we will not only see the Buddha, but we'll also see the Dharma. Not anything that we see, no longer does it have to be a manifestation. Then everything is a manifestation. Then everything allows us to see the Dharma. Then there is no Dharma, and then there is only the true Dharma within. The principles are everywhere. So in another word, this is something that allows us to get closer to understand what a Dharma is. And that's what this is really about. So the three bodies are something that's really far away, which is really, really Dharma, something that's closer, which is the Buddha himself, and something that's closer to us, perhaps our master, is a manifestation of the teachings that the Buddha taught. But the Buddha taught only the teachings in the finite number of words. What he was really trying to preach was the Dharma. And master expanded that horizon to encompass more, whether it's astrology, astronomy, or whether it's international politics or government or anything. All these things she opened up to expand the horizon. And those are all manifestations, allow us to see more. Okay, so Master said it is through this long duration of accumulation of deeds done, of memory experiences collected, that we are able to slowly accumulate. So another way to look at this, it's not just that these are not just bridges. You know, the manifestation bridges us to the next stage, which is the Buddha, or the next stage, or the final stage, which is the understanding of the Dharma. But another way to look at it is through accumulating all these different manifestations, through accumulating the understanding, the accumulation of memory, of experience, of the very little things that we do. Through the accumulation of all these things, you will eventually reach Buddhahood and enlightenment. And then eventually, through accumulation of so much more, you will eventually be able to find, oh, so that's what Dharma really is. And so that is exactly what the emergence of the treasure tower in chapter 12, in chapter 11 talks about, is that there is the abundant treasure Buddha, which is sitting inside the tower. And then there are all these manifestations where the Buddha needed to make 3 transformations of our Saha world, so it can fit all these manifestations. Okay, so that's the Dhammakaya body, and then there's the manifestations. So why does Master use the word supernatural power? Okay, in Chinese it's called Shen Tong. Okay, supernatural. Okay, however, Master explained this before. Shen Tong, the 2 characters, Shen means supernatural or holy or deity. Tong is actually through. Okay, because of this supernatural abilities, everything is through. Okay, everything can go through. So why use that word? Because when our spirit, when our mind, when our thoughts are together, when we have the same objective, when our hearts is the same, then everything can be gone through. Everything is open. Everything is thoroughly through, see through, go through. It's all completely open. So what that means is, if instead of looking at things through these lenses, what we're talking about is the supernatural power or Shen Tong allow us to really go through all these lenses, all these different state of minds, and go through to connect to our inner Buddha nature. Okay, so that's what these are about. So another way to look at this is this is the one. One is what we know of. Before Buddha, we didn't have a person to teach us what it is. So this starts with him. Starts with the Buddha to say, so the Buddha nature exists in all sentient beings, and only because of delusion and affliction that all sentient beings cannot reach the state of Buddhahood and enlightenment. So from that point on, for all those 49 years of preaching, and 2,500 years later, we are here because of that one person that started up and said, I want to let everybody know about the truth. So it's starting from that one. However, it is from that one that gives rise to all these twos. These twos are the manifestation of that principles. Yes, the Buddha preached for 49 years, but the 2,500 years beyond, there are more manifestations about this teaching. Well, there are many other monks. There are many other great Dharma masters, and including our own Dharma master, who have been using today's idea and today's words and knowledge to explain what that one is. So it's really encompassing and expanding ever more to all the realms, to all the places, to let us understand it's not just about the Dharma. It's not just about the teachings, the preachings. It's actually about the things that's happening in the world. And that allow us from that one to see the two, to see even more, which is the number 3, the Dharma. So from the one, which is the Namanakaya, we are able to see all the manifestations, or the Sambhogakaya, and allow us to see through all these different lenses and put all of them together, you will see the entire Dharma. However, if I put the entire Dharma in this circle, it seems so restricting. Therefore, it should look like this. Everything is really in the Dharma. And all these manifestations will allow us to see a little pieces of it, So if you would imagine, these are just different lenses that we see through. And then we're trying to get a better picture of what this yellow, what this Dharma really looks like. And now, the more manifestations that you have, the better picture you get about what the big picture is, but you're still not seeing the whole thing, because I'm going to talk about later. Why is it that we cannot see the whole thing? Because this is the key now. Principles with practice. Practice with principles. You can't just have all these holes, okay? Because I'm going to tell you, this is what Master says about the Sierra Leone, and this is what I wanted to take a little bit more time to talk about in the second part, because it actually pertains to the question that one of you have, and also today's question, and I want to go into that too. So the background story of this is that our volunteers from the US, they returned to the abode, and they began to report to the master about what they have done in Sierra Leone, and also what's with the recent, whether it's the mudslide, the water, and all those problems, what they have done and what they plan to do, and what's happening there. And so with their very, very descriptive descriptions, and also all the reports, Master that day had this to say: you only understand if you were present. So this first sentence already tells you that, I'm sorry, you weren't there that day, so you probably don't understand. And yes, Joe can tell you what Master says, but you probably won't understand. But I will do my best, okay? So the first sentence already says, you probably won't get it. But I'm trying to be as animated as I can to bring that emotion to you so that you can understand, not through the words, but through my expression, my emotion, my passion. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. So she says, as long as you have been there and done it, there will be memories. So this is very simple, straightforward. Because you were there and because you've done it, there will be memories of it. Okay, so she continues. For me to recite the happenings after listening to your report would be shallow at best. So she's saying that because you were there and you do it, there will be memories, and you are reporting all of your memories. Now, for me, or in this case, for Master to recite what happens, what you just explained or what you just reported, for her to recite and to tell the story again after listening to the report, it will be shallow at best. It's very shallow. She can only understand, or she can only hear what you say, but that would be it. And then she says, but if I were to recount the stories of what I have done, I can go on for days. So she is doing a contrast and comparison of, for her own, if she were to recount the stories of what she had done, namely all the things that she had walked, all the decisions that she had made, all the interaction that she had faced, or all the challenges that she had overcome, she were to recount these stories, she can go on for days and days. Okay, so next. So now she continues, and she quickly switched gears. She talked about what you reported, and she talked about what she did herself. So she switched gear to Dharma now, especially the 8th consciousness, the storehouse. If we remember, the 1 through 5 are our sensory organs. The 6 is our mind, how we perceive these, how we differentiate. This is a table, this is a chair, how we put the name, the terminology onto the actual physical object. this is hot, that's burning, and this is wet, etc., etc. So that's the sixth sense, the sixth consciousness. The seventh consciousness is we add on our emotions and our feelings to it. So I like it, I don't like it, I despise it, etc. Okay, so the eighth one is actually called the storehouse. So she's talking about the eighth consciousness, the storehouse. Next, without actually doing, there will be no memory, nothing in store. So this is, once again, following what was said in the previous page. If you do something, there will be memory. Very simple. If you don't do anything, there will be no memory, nothing in store. And then she goes on, like your report, because you were there, you can describe it in detail. In another word, because you done it, so then you were there and you have something in memory in the eighth consciousness. So you can show your eighth consciousness because it's already there. But because, so next she says, or else every story will be very discounted. So in another word, she's trying to say, and this is really much a paraphrase, what she is trying to say is, if she were to recount the stories and somebody were to ask her more detailed questions like, oh, how many were there? How did they dress like? How did the air feel like? Was it really hot? Because all these information were not given to her, the story will be very discounted because this is something that she only hears you say. However, these stories, if you were there, even though you did not tell these stories, even though that these things were not something that you commit to memory or you written down in your report, if I were to ask you, how did the air smell like? Or how did the temperature feel like? Was it hot? How did the people, how did they react? Were they happy? Were they joyous? Were they sad? Were they sorrowful? These things were not in your report, but you can always reach into your eighth consciousness, reach into your memory, and relive that moment, and you will be able to explain it. So that's the difference between whether there will be a memory or something in store or nothing in store. And that's why she said at the last sentence, and this is the key, I hope all of our bodhisattvas can devote into practices. That's the key. She goes all the way around about memory, about store, about the stories being shallow, about how she can recount the stories being shallow, and she can recount her stories being days and days without stopping, about the details. This is the key. I hope all of our bodhisattvas can devote into practices. So this is the practice, the first P of the practices and the principles, okay? And this is something that we wanted to focus on, the two things, okay? So page 14 is the food pyramid. This is not really a food pyramid so much in that it's the one that we used to know about, the meat and the vegetables and etc. This is really about the vegetarian, okay, the vegetarian food pyramid. And the reason why I brought this up is because, as you know, being a vegetarian, there are things that we have to watch out for. There are some of the vitamins that are naturally lacking or are not as abundant in the food that we usually consume. And therefore, it is usually the practice that we have to eat the food in a very balanced way, to find the most suitable, capable nutrition values that we can get for an adult with this much amount of activity, okay? So same idea that in our world of balancing practice and principle, we also need to find a balance between practice and principles. And not just that, but the practice itself also needs to be balanced. So for example, in our Tzu Chi, there are 4 missions and 8 Dharma footprints. We also need to remember that it's just like a food pyramid, just like what any Chinese or traditional medicine would tell you, that you need to eat vegetables of different color because different color represent different chi or different parts of your body that it supply the nutritions for. And that's why you need a balance. You can't keep on eating something and expect the entire body to function without a problem because you need a balance. Same idea. You need 2 feet to stand firmly. If you have only 1 foot or 1 leg, then it will be very difficult. And to make it even better, Master gave us 4 legs. Okay, well, it doesn't sound right, but to make it so that we can stand even more firm, we have 4 legs. And not only that, each time we take our stride, there are 8 footprints. So that allows us to have a way to understand, to be in practice, to be in tune with what's really out there. Not just hearing people and putting in our mind only, but really have it in our 8 consciousness. So when somebody asks you, how does it feel like? You are not listening, you're not retrieving from what you listen, but you're retrieving from your 8 consciousness, from your memory. And that's what Tzu Chi is so different from other organizations. It's not about just the Dharma itself, it's about the practice. The practice and the principles, both are important, and that's the balance. However, this is the kicker. This is the part that I think trumps everything. And that's also what is talked about today in today's Xun Fa Xiang. So Master, later on, okay, so this is the part that we talked about was happening in the first hour. This happens in the second hour. So Master recounted again what she talked about Sierra Leone. She said, Sierra Leone, I will not go there. Well, no kidding. I don't think she's going to go there. I don't think she's going to exit Taiwan. But anyway, she just made it clear she will not go there. However, that wasn't her point. However, she said, because my heart is deeply intertwined with all those suffering there. So I know what is going on there. Even though I'm not there, my heart is already deep rooted in the land, deeply rooted in the land. And she goes on, not just Sierra Leone, but anywhere there is suffering, I can feel and understand it. So this is the key now. These 2 segments of paragraphs embodies the 3 bodies that we talked about. Okay, so first, you have a very compassionate heart. You have one thing that happened in Sierra Leone. That's number 1. Through that one lens, one thing that happened. Next, you have all these people that come back to tell you what happened. The news report, the global report, our news crew, our volunteers, everything that happens on the ground, there are a lot of report. All these are different looking glasses or lenses that allow you to see the true picture. And then there is the ever-encompassing Dharma. So this is the final part. She said that she will not be there. But because her heart is deeply intertwined with all those people, she understands it. So without being there, without this particular looking glass that's called Sierra Leone, she already sees the big picture that is completely orange. She does not need these looking glasses to see what's beyond, which is the Dharma. She already knew the Dharma. Once you know the big picture, all the manifestations are already there. So she already knows. And it's not just this looking glass, but it's everywhere. All the looking glasses, all the lenses. It's almost like our eyes are covered. Our eyes are covered. And one opening, it's called Sierra Leone. One opening is called Africa, Malaysia, refugees, Syria. All these are small openings, allowing us to slowly open up our eyes to see what's beyond that, which is the Dharma. For Master, she sees the Dharma already. She doesn't need to look through these looking glasses and lenses to see what's beyond. She already saw past that. And therefore, she doesn't need these lenses. So coming back, she said, even though she doesn't go there, it doesn't matter that you have these looking glasses, these lenses. It won't matter that she doesn't have it. She knows it already. She was already there. She can feel it. And not just this lens, but all the lenses, all the tools that we saw around the one, it's already there. And that's the key. It's not just about the practice. It's the principles. Once you know the principles, you get through all the practices are connected. And then there won't be a principle or practice. There won't be a need for the lenses. You will just get it. And because you get it, you will know what to do. And what to do? You will have to go there and you will have to basically help the people there. So all these sentences embody the three bodies of the Buddha that we talked about today. Principles and practices, you have to find a balance. It's only through doing that you can put all these things in your eight consciousnesses. And once you accumulate enough of these manifestations, then you will see the big picture. And once you see the big picture, you don't need the lenses. You would already be able to be compassionate. And that's what Master talked about today, about empathy, about towards the end. She goes out and she said, well, don't stop doubting. This is what we need. But if you don't go there, you will not understand. It's just like we are sitting in an air-conditioned room and thinking about the burning house. You just don't get it. You can hear all about it, but you won't get it. So the most important thing is put it into practice. The 4 missions, the 8 footsteps are something that allow us to understand more, to have empathy, to continue to move toward putting all these manifestations together. Remember, all these things is through the accumulation of these small steps, through these accumulation of these small manifestations that will eventually put together into a much bigger lens, much bigger picture of what Dharma is, and will allow us to finally break through all the lenses and see what's really beyond. That's the key. So, infinite Dharma. Dharma is everywhere, just like the forms is everywhere. The suffering is many, many fold. You can't say there's only one kind of suffering. There are many, many infinite number of all these sufferings and all the sentient beings. However, if you put these two together, the Dharma and the form, if you put them together, you have practice and you have principles, put them together, there is only one true vehicle. And that's what the Buddha was trying to tell you. We already have it. We just need to do it. The roadmap is already clear. Just have to do it. And do what? Put in the principles and the practice together. If we have too much of one without the other, then we lose out on the most concrete thing. If we have too much of practice without the principles, then we just have all these lenses, but we don't know what we're looking at. We miss the big picture. But if we only have the principles, then we miss out on the most important thing, which is to really relieve the suffering. The people are suffering. So these are the things that we talked about. So to answer that question from our beloved brothers and sisters, this is the proverbial question, right? So in a Western meal, we actually serve soup first. But in Chinese, we drink the soup last. So do we drink soup first or do we drink the soup last? Do we have the fruit first or do we have the fruit last? Now, everybody, I'm sure, have different ideas. And even if you have different ideas, you might even have different practices. Like, for example, I know I should probably have fruit first, but I always eat it last. So it's different already with myself, what I think and what I do. In any event, there isn't a right answer. All these are right as long as you remember to eat, okay? Don't forget to eat. Whether you have soup first or last, yes, it sometimes works better one way or the other. But the most important part is to eat. So don't lose out on the most important part. Principle and practices are both important. Cultivation is the key. That's the journey. So don't let anyone tell you this is right or wrong. You need to know what is right or wrong. Don't be too on the one side and forget about the other. The fact that somebody is telling us always serve as a reminder. Maybe I'm missing something. Always be humble to ask, perhaps, what they're telling about. Maybe their attitude isn't good, but maybe there's some truth to what they're saying. Listen to your heart. Am I missing something? And that's why we always go back to the 4 wisdoms. Always, always. The wisdom of accomplishment. Know what we have done. And then looking into that, using this profound insight to find out, is that all that I have done? Can I do more? Or is there something that I'm not doing? And then find out, connect it with your Buddha nature. Am I really empathizing with all the things that's happening? Or am I just focused on one part? Am I not doing enough of this? Is what Master's saying, am I really connected with that? Okay. And when you put all of them together, that's called the great perfect mirror. And that's my sharing for today. Sorry, once again, I go over, it gets something very, very passionate and something that I really want everybody to try to understand. The 3 bodies of the Buddha, it's something always that troubles me. But once you put it into much simpler terms, it's really, really straightforward. And when you put it together with the happenings around the world and with how Master explains it, it really all shows up. And today we talk about the three wisdoms, right? The one wisdom where we know the three wisdoms. One is 一切智, which is know everything. 道种智, which is know all the principles, and 一切种智, which is to put all them together into one. It's the same idea as the principles, the practices, and how we can put them into one to become the one true vehicle. So all these things, terminology, are just different looking glasses for us to see a better picture. Once we connect all of them, you'll realize you see a much bigger picture, a much better picture, a much clearer picture of what Dharma is really about. So everybody, brothers and sisters, that's what we need to do. Practice and principles. Let's just do it. Thank you. That's my sharing for today. And Sister Xiaoqing, please take over for the next part, which is the sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, and Brother Joe, for such wonderful insights. Greatly summarize what we have heard for the week. Today, okay, we have SS2 joining us, newly joined us. Today we have sharing from Philippines, Sister Peggy from Manila. Oh, I see. Sorry. Is it here? Okay.
Okay. Brothers and sisters, can everyone hear me clearly? Yes. Okay. Actually, my sharing is I remember in one of Master's Sri Bashang, she reminded us to be very vigilant, for us to be always looking at our behaviors, our thoughts, and then we have to always respect and be grateful for people, for matters, for things that we encounter day to day. So, background, I started as a Jing or a youth volunteer. So I've been in Tzu for a very long time, actually. But I've been, I think, for the first 10 years of my being a volunteer, I've been focusing more on doing the missions. So, like what Brother Joe said, that I maybe was like standing on one foot. So for several years, I was doing that. So, standing on one leg and trying to walk the path. So, I guess I was like maybe creating some blessings that in terms of cultivating my wisdom. That was the part that I left out. It was not intentional, but that was how it was. So I think around 10 years ago, I encountered a lot of people matters that I almost left the Sisi family, but I did not. But instead what I did was I stayed away and avoided a lot of the people who disturbed my peace. So, and then I remembered in one, I think it was in March, in Master's Shinpasha, Master said that we should not actually just tolerate people who, or maybe practice some tolerance for people who do not agree with, but the tolerance has to have some form of endurance. It has to take you need to have to practice it for a long time for you to be able to continuously walk the Tzu path. So in the last few years, I think I felt tired standing on one leg. So in the last few years, I started reading Master's books, listening to Sri Fashang, and then also listen to Thai radio, when some of our Taiwan brothers and sisters would actually explain Master's books. So I realized that when Brother Joe explained Shin Fashang, it's Dharma incense permeating our consciousness, I think it really I actually started worrying about, because when I read books and then when I listen to Master's talks, I was worried that how come I cannot really remember a lot of things. So I was worried about that. But I then understood when Dharma is permeating your consciousness, sometimes when people ask me questions about or people ask me about their problems, And then all of these masters' teachings and the Dharma, suddenly they come back. So now I realize that it's maybe permeating slowly. It's just that maybe at one second, sometimes I cannot say I can remember what I heard maybe a few hours ago. But when faced with my own problems, I get to remember what Master said and what our brothers and sisters have been sharing. So I think in the past few years, I think I am, when things don't go my way and when negative things happen, I am not that fast to react. I become more slower to react, and I can actually reflect on my thoughts, what I'm thinking, and then what I wanted to do. So I guess this has helped me a lot in facing also negative things, and also I've tried my best right now to actually turn the not so good affinities to become better affinities, to be good affinities. So for the people that I've avoided for a few years, I've made it a point to actually reach out to them and then bring them back over and then make them good Dharma relatives. So I think it's just what Brother Joe just shared. I think I wasted a lot of time personally. I wasted a lot of time of just standing on one leg, and but I guess right now I know that I have to catch up on a lot of things because Master started the Sutra of Infinite Meanings in 2008, and then Lotus Sutra started explaining in 2009. And I have a lot of catching up to do to be able to understand everything. Okay, so I would like to thank the brothers and sisters who have made this possible. It's actually funny because I actually knew about this weekly Lotus English review through Brother Greg and Sister Sally from the US. So it was a long way from the Philippines, getting to know brothers and sisters in the US and then getting to know that there's such a weekly Lotus Sutra review. So Kanan everyone for making this possible and for bringing the Dharma to more people through English, because it's also the same situation here in the Philippines. A lot of people, Chinese and Filipinos alike, do not understand Chinese or the Taiwanese. So with this platform, I can actually share more of these to our brothers and sisters here. And then.
Okay, thank you, Sister Peggy, and all of our Dharma family in the Philippines and all the people online. I think it's really something that an honor and pleasure to be able to call all of you my Dharma family and relatives, because all of your stories are so inspiring, and all of your truly something that I can learn from, and that's something that I'm really proud of to be part of this family. And just something that I want to share to Sister is that I don't think it's time wasted. It's not. It's just something that you put in the store, just like what you said, just like that permeates through, that when you need it, you actually have it. You know, it's just like, it's probably hard for you to remember what you ate a week ago. Let's say, last Sunday, what did you eat for breakfast? What did you eat for lunch? I mean, if you live in the abode, you can tell, oh yeah, I ate mantou for breakfast. That's because we eat mantou every day, but that's besides the point. If I were to ask you, well, what did you eat for lunch and dinner? When was the last time you ate this and this and that? You can't not tell me when exactly you ate it. Sometimes you even can't tell me what you exactly ate, right? But that's in you. The nutrition that you ate, it's already in you, that sustains you so that you are able to continue to function. That goes on without you knowing. That goes on without you saying, consciously saying, I'm eating mantou and therefore it's starch and becomes carbohydrate and becomes my energy. You didn't really consciously do all of that. It just does that for you. Same thing with the Dharma permeate. The Dharma incense permeates through all of you without you knowing. The more you hear, the more you take in, the more you open your heart, the more you're able to accept and receive. And all those years that you put your heart and energy into the practice, it's not time wasted, because all of you are setting you up and preparing you to open the heart even wider to accept